So let's just get started here.
Okay, I started recording. Thank you, Amanda.
All right, so we are going to go over teaching tech in the library, and there's a bunch of different ways that this can happen. And there's a bunch of different topics and idea categories that we can cover. So I've been working with the group called the Digital Navigators, and they are a nationwide group that has been working on figuring out which digital skills people need, how to connect people with the skills that they need in different environments, and how to help communities build partnerships to tackle the massive thing that is digital skills. And so my first question for you all is, what would you say is digital literacy and digital skills in your community? And you can put that in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and just give a little blurb.
This is Jenny. We have an aging population, so digital literacy in my town is probably getting their Kindle to work for them, helping them do emails, showing them how to connect their library card to Overdrive. Those seems to be the biggies that I have in my library.
Perfect. And I'm going to jot notes on a sheet of paper on the side here if someone else wants to share what that means in their library. And I will be putting up a sheet of examples that'll help you kind of start to brainstorm and start thinking about this. I just wanted to get kind of an early start if there was anything that you wanted to cover or learn more about just offhand.
Mine is similar to Jenny's. People just needing help with their smartphones, learning how to take photographs with their smartphone, or being reluctant to switch from their flips to their, and then basic use of internet.
So computer use, all right. And I'm looking at the chat too, so I can add a couple more votes for email and Google search. So we have some more votes for email, using laptops and devices, and specific sites to help in education. So choosing educational websites, choosing and using educational websites. And, oh, applying for jobs. Using Overdrive and Libby. Navigating government websites. So we've got a good start here, and I will be asking you to take a mini survey about the digital skills you want to start using. So keep this in mind, and then we'll also go over just a mess of ideas and options that I've been gathering over the years, and the digital navigators helped a lot with that. Oh, passwords and YouTube. Yeah. Okay. So our main goal for this is to be able to understand the problems that people are facing in your community, and then turn that into a library service or some sort of new offering to help people with that skill. And a lot of this is also going to be building partnerships. So I'm going to later on ask you what kind of partnerships you already have available, and start thinking about the organizations that are working on these problems and how you might be able to work together. So as I did say in this description, I did break down this process into 6 mini steps. to kind of start walking through how to brainstorm ideas and how to turn this into a library service and get the word out there. So we're going to go over kind of figuring out who is going to be learning this stuff and understanding what people are facing on a day-to-day basis and how they're going to be able to incorporate learning these new skills into what they have to do all the livelong day. And then we're going to talk about kind of the different problems people are facing and starting to expand out what digital literacy might mean and start kind of just figuring out new ways to tackle the subject. And then we'll go over some different resources to show how people are actually learning, some different ways that you can approach teaching this in the library, and different ways you can do it in person and virtually, depending on what people need. And then we'll go over some different resources, some that I've gathered together, and I'll ask you if you have anything that you already use and you prefer. And I might be able to just expand my resource pool in general, which would be a plus side. And this is in this step, the fourth step is where I'll ask you about the partners and organizations that might be able to help, because it's kind of hard to tackle all this just on our own. And then we'll talk about what it'll take to get your staff up and ready and what it takes to prepare for the different library service offerings that you're choosing. And lastly, we'll kind of follow it up with how do we tell people that we exist? And what are some new ways that we can explore connecting people with the skills that they need and just kind of mixing it up a little bit. All right, so we're going to start off with just kind of a big brainstorm. So we've already got kind of a list of what you want to start getting into, which is helping people use their devices, their smartphones, laptops, and computers, and how to get into email, figuring out how to use Overdrive and just how to navigate different library services and government websites. So we've got a really good start there. And we are going to go over some more additional brainstorming stuff, and we're going to build out who's actually going to be using this stuff. So I'm going to click on this worksheet here. And what I'm going to do now is share this slide with you so that you're going to be able to click all these links to access the worksheets and information so that you can use it now and when you're planning later. So I'm going to just hit the escape key. I'll share this out and copy it. And it is in the chat. So what I would request for you to do now is to open up that link, go to this fourth slide, who is learning and why, and click open this Brainstorm target demographic worksheet. And I am going to switch this over so that people can edit it instead of just view it so that you'll be able to interact with it. Oh, it looks like you already can here. So, and I know that some of you already answered this during our kind of initial warm up here, but if you could list a number one, who you're actually working with. I know many are working with older adults, and then there are some job seekers, but if we could just put it all out there on the board. And if you're not comfortable working in Google Docs, you can also put it in the chat and I can add it for you. So I will leave the chat open. There's always more than one way to do things. Oh, parents with young kids. That's a big one. And I'm also keeping an eye on the chat just in case people prefer to do it that way. Tweens through high school age. And a lot of tweens and high schoolers actually needs a lot of the same resources as adults. So that kind of comes in handy. Device use and navigating careers is just kind of across the board. Oh, childcare workers, yes. Elementary. True. And I probably will. So there's another resource set that's already geared toward K through 12. So we'll try to focus a little more on the adult market, but I can connect you to the resources that are already together for K through 12 because there are a mess of them. All right, so looks like there's been a pause in typing, but I'll give you another minute because I see Anonymous Goose is on the run. By the way, I love that Google Doc made the random animal names for everyone who's interacting with the document. My favorite one so far has been the anonymous Kraken, because who knew? Let's see. Oh, there's an anonymous shrew now too. And an axolotl. All right. So once we've gotten the list of target markets, the next step would actually be to just choose one and start mapping out what has worked and what are the difficulties in actually reaching that segment. So because I want this to be able to work for your own situation, you can just type in job seekers and then what makes it easy to reach. People need the service and like that it's free. So you can just type in the market that you're working with, a colon, and what makes it easy to reach. And I'm going to unbold this because I don't need a bold. And I will drink my tea while I give people some time to type. And so you can also start filling in the what makes the target market difficult to reach in the step below. Because a lot of times those walk hand in hand while you're brainstorming. So what we'll do with the what makes the target market difficult to reach is we'll use that to develop resources and figure out what kind of materials is better to generate or to find when you're developing the library services. So for example, if people are difficult to reach because they might be homebound, then you might use that information to choose that you're going to use a virtual resource or that you're going to do an over the phone service. Basically, we're on our big brain dump part of the planning. It's my favorite part. Oh, lack of basic understanding of digital resources is a big one. Thanks, Connie. And older patrons. Yeah. And kind of what we're running into is people don't have that computer literacy, but then they don't have a reason to learn it. So it's like, that's why we're going to look into the day in the life and then kind of start building out a profile of what is most important to people and what motivates them to do what they do, and kind of see if there might be a hook in to bring people into computer literacy based on what they actually like and need to do anyway. So they rely heavily on, yeah. So, and that, so part of what we'll do in the profile is to build out who is influencing people's decision and who is helping them out already. So if you aren't able to reach an older adult just one-on-one directly, you might be able to reach them through their kids or their siblings or grandkids who might be able to kind of ply them into being able to use digital skills just to stay connected or to just reach out in different ways and learn about different online communities where you can join into the fray and share ideas, because loneliness is a thing. And that is also one of the biggest problems people are facing, especially if you're homebound and not able to get out as much. And recommending these online communities to say, if you love the guitar or you love the opera or you love insert thing here, it exists as a community online. And just having that connection is just invaluable. And if we could go through these last two on, or the last few on here, which is, what do you know already works? And I'll put that on the next page here. Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if you could do the same format of putting the target market, a colon, and what works. Oh, the phone request is a good one. One-on-one tutoring. And the other big question is, should computer training be one-on-one or in group training? And it's, I think it really depends on the thing. Scheduling appointments. I love a good tech cafe. Basic computer classes. Thanks, Jenny. And while you're thinking about it, what hasn't worked so well and why? And there is a way that the digital navigators have been talking about a way to kind of use online tutorials, but use them, so have library staff help people get through the basic startup and setup. So get the account set up and get to the navigate to the actual tutorial, make sure they're comfortable using the tools, and then most of the time they're kind of good to go. But if you just send a link to a guided course tutorial on Coursera or GCF Learn, that's when like a lot of people start to get lost because they just don't know how to do that basic startup. So here is. And I'm going to put a little line between these just to, I'm getting a spam call. I just have to close that. All right. Yeah. And I guess that is one thing against like the group training part is that it's hard to personalize it to the individual. All right, so let's see. And now, why are people in the library to start with? And if you could put the target market, the colon, and then the reason they're there. And don't forget about parents too, because that is one that has come up quite a few times for they're bringing their kids in for story hour and they might be able to grab a few other resources along the way. Actually, I could just type that. Let's see, so older adults. YouTube. Watch YouTube. I'm also grabbing some from the chat. So if you see a bunch that are popping in there, that was me. But it wasn't me. Oh, so you had, and I'll actually put that other one in the what has worked. Older adults have teens explain. And I'm checking the chat in here. So there's a lot of connection and community. And then there is parents coming in for story hour, people coming in just to do everyday tasks like checking out books, making copies, and just doing what they need to do to get stuff done. All right, so now we've got kind of our baseline planning done here. And we're going to continue on to start looking at a wider pool of problems that people have been facing. And we're going to take a mini vote on those problems just to kind of figure out what of this new stuff you might also be interested in trying. Oh, and actually one more popped into the chat, which I will put in here. Homeless population. Shelter requirements for jobs. All right, so I am going to put out this mini survey here, and I'll also use this to start directing what kind of resources you might want to have access to, and basically what the Library Commission might want to start building out. So if you could, I will share a link to this survey. And copy link, and that is in the chat. And if you want to learn more about what some of these topics are, there's also a set of examples that I put together that is in this link here. So if you could just take a minute to take that survey and look at that list of digital literacy service offerings by category. And that I just kind of worked with the digital navigators and asked around to different libraries to find out what people actually need. And you can take a vote on if that applies to you, and then I'll use that to figure out if that is where to put attention to more resources. And if you do want to download these digital skills for brainstorming in your own library, you can also download a copy of this, and it'll be available via link after the workshop too. And if you see me staring off into space, I'm actually looking at my second monitor to look at the survey results to find out what direction we might want to go. All right, so we've heard from almost everyone here, so I'll just give you a few more minutes to put your votes in here. That is really good tea. And in case you're wondering, this is from the Unemployed Philosophers Guild. It is a quote mug. And I think this one is the First Lines of Literature mug. It's a classic. All right, so the most votes we got so far are for Computers for Beginners is at number 1. Then we have Job Seekers and Career Changers and Staying Safe and Secure Online at number 3. And number 4 is Connect with Friends and Family via online. And those are the biggies so far. The next one is Working from Home and Health and Wellness Online. And Identify Fake News and Misinformation tied with health and wellness. So we've got a pretty good start there. So far, the feedback I've been getting from these trainings is that people want all the things. So there is that. Working on it. All right, so let me close these digital skills. And I'm going to look at, so we're at 136. We have time to go into a user persona. So if you remember, I told you that we would go through and kind of choose a target market and go through what actually matters to people and what people are facing and what might drive them to use library services and prioritize learning that thing over anything else. So I'm going to grab this and I'll put a link into the chat, or if you happen to be still on the slides, you can grab it there. Copy. Oh, did the mug disappear into the virtual background? Oh, that's unfortunate. I bet I could show it that way if it's like in front of my head. Okay, so I just put in the link to this customer persona that I have up on the screen here. And so this is actually a fillable PDF. So the unfortunate thing is that it won't let me type into it until I download it or open it with another reader. So I'm just going to download this by hovering my mouse in the upper right-hand corner, looking for the downward facing arrow for a download. And then I'll click download and be able to open it and edit it. So the way that this works is so I think probably job seekers and older adults were the top 2 from the survey that we just took. So I will use job seekers. And so that'll be the main category heading. And then you would say, these are adults between, actually teens and adults between 15 and usually about 60, 65. Probably about 40 to 50 is the most usual, but we'll just cap it at 65 because it's pretty much everybody. The retirement age just keeps going up. I'm never going to be allowed to retire. And they may have families and current full-time jobs. Some have part-time jobs and family obligations. And I'm going to make this bigger. And hobbies. So their life goals right now: earn a living to support themselves and their family. Some want to get out of poverty. So that'll depend on what kind of demographic you're looking at. And some will want to get out of poverty or homelessness. And they want to be like respected members of society, respected by their family. And contribute to family, friends, community. So then we would move over to what are the barriers that are getting in the way of these life goals. So an example would be not knowing how to use devices, websites, computers in general. Not knowing how the job search and application process works. And what are some other barriers that might get in the way of job seekers? You can put this into the chat just because it won't let me do a shared document for everyone. So we're looking at, we just went through the basic demographic profile of the average job seeker that's between 15 and 65. And then we looked at what do they actually want out of life? What are they trying to do? And this is just kind of an example of it. But what are some of the other barriers that are getting in the way of this? Oh, ESL learners. For some. Access home computers or internet. Oh, not knowing which resources exist. All right, so we've got a pretty decent list there. What makes them do what they do? And this is also tied into their life goals. So an example would be family, community support, money, money, money. And this motivation section is what we're going to be looking at for our marketing later and for developing the resources that are going to go into these library service offerings like workshops, one-on-one training. So if you design a one-on-one training, what would be most helpful for them to take home so that they can get the most use out of it? And build a better life. And wanting to do and I'm looking at the chat here for if anyone has anything else they want me to pop in here. And so, you know, we talked about the older adults were getting help from friends and family who were helping them out with computer skills. So who are the people, organizations, and just anyone who happens to be helping them make decisions about computers, helping them learn computer tasks and just different stuff like that. And the library can be an influencer because older adults do go to the library as an information source. So I will put librarians. Friends, family. And this influences would also be where you would start putting in partner organizations. So for job seekers, it might be American Job Center or, oh, social media is a good one. Goodwill. And I'll just put in other partner organizations just as a placeholder. And this last one, you might not have an answer for during the initial planning stage, but which technology tools would actually be most helpful when they're trying to get this done? So this you'll actually start building out more as you start breaking down the process and just kind of figuring out line by line what people are facing. But so an example that would go here is Google Docs or Microsoft Word to type resumes and cover letters. Websites for job search and application. Websites for company research and career. I'll just say company and career research. If I spelled research right, that would be helpful. And social media, LinkedIn to market yourself. Oh, for ESL, website translators. And conversation translators. And there's also, and the Department of Labor also uses their own tools, but I'll just keep that as, it can be bucketed under websites for job search and application. So that is kind of the baseline of building out a profile of what people are facing, what matters to them, and just kind of building out who they are as a human. And then that will be kind of used throughout the process just to center everything we do on what they're actually facing in life. And there's also going to be a day in the life activity that you can run through as an option that will help you zero in on just kind of what people face just day to day to day, and then figure out where in that day learning this skill is actually going to fit and what would make them prioritize learning this in the library or learning this online through the library into the rest of their day. And then that'll help with marketing, designing materials, resources, and all that jazz. And I'm just going to take a gander at the chat just in case anyone typed anything new in here. And just to get a litmus test as to whether or not this tool is helpful for you, does anyone see themselves using this when they're doing their library planning in the future? Or does anyone already use it? And you can give a yay or a nay in the chat. All right, and I will give you a minute to put this in here. And you can also do different flavors of it and only use it when you need it. So if you get stuck on brainstorming things for a certain demographic, you can fill this out as a kind of a kickstarting for planning. And this is also great for people who are just starting out with certain types of activities, or if you want to use this as a library training thing, because a lot of times, if you've been doing this forever and a day, you might just do this naturally in your head. But for people that are learning it or that are practicing new stuff, they might want to use this as a learning tool. And okay, so there was a question to say this is an example, which I will do now. So I will download it, save it. And I do also have another pre-made example for this as well. I just made this in Canva. So all the tools that I went over, I will just open up my Canva right now. So that one is not the customer journey, this one. So I do have the fillable form and then some examples too. So this is an example of job seekers in the workforce. And so this I also have available as well. All right, so I will close this. We might go back to it later. And I'm going to go back into my slide here so that we can go into the next segment here. And this is going to be kind of tied in together because they kind of walk hand in hand. You want a link to the Canva? I will give you a link to Canva. Yeah, let me grab customer persona, share, copy link. And I will make this a link to edit in case you want to make a copy of it and use it for yourself. All right, so there is the link to Canva. And now I'll close this again. So we went over who is learning, and we took the vote to find out what people are actually facing. So now we're going to launch into how people learn, which is tied into this. Oh, the link didn't work. Let me try it again. Share, copy link, and we'll try it again. I don't think I did anything different, but maybe I missed a letter or a character in there the first time. And I will also try a link to share it as a template in case Canva likes that version better. So you can try them both. Okay. So we're at 154, so that you still have any blood circulation in your legs. I will just give this a pause until 2:05, give you a chance to stretch your legs, and then we'll launch into this next segment here. So 2:05, I set my computer alarm. All right. So we are going to get into how people actually learn this stuff and where they are when they learn it. And we are going to use this to better design the resources that are made available to people so that they can access the information when they need it. So on the screen here, and I will make this a little bigger here. So this is where people usually are when they learn stuff. So if you think about that big list of problems that we just brainstormed and like what job seekers are trying to do, what older adults are trying to do to learn social media and learn how to get connected, how to use email, how to use these different devices. So they might learn it in the library, but for the most part, they might not always use it in the library. They might be in the middle of a Zoom session with their kids from out of state, and they might need to have like a little sheet that they pull up just to remember how to start a Zoom session. Or they might need a little refresher about where the chat button is or something like that. So what are the resources that will help people that they can access on the go when they're actually using this stuff? So what we're going to do now is kind of run through just a quick exercise of where are you when you learn it. So I'm going to open up a new document. And this is kind of the next stage in our planning process. And when you're actually doing this in practice, you might not even need to write this down. You might just intuitively know it. But this is just kind of an exercise just to start practicing it and putting it into the planning process. So I'm just going to have a 2-column table. The left side is going to be the task, what people are learning, and where they are when they use it. And I will bold this, add some more rows. And I'm going to share this in the chat. I'll make it so that you can edit it. And once you've written into this document, we'll start making some notes down below. And yes, lunches are the next break. I just opened the chat. So on the left-hand side will be, so my example here was Zoom starting session and using function. So what else are people trying to do? Are they job seekers? Are they trying to fill out resumes, trying to fill out forms online? And where do people start getting stuck in that process? And I know people talked about you take a session in the library, you do a one-on-one training, then when you actually get in front of it and you're doing it, mind goes blank. So we're looking for those moments right there that where people are getting stuck and they need help when they're trying to do it. And I will give the example here of job seekers, resumes, at home, at job center. So we have in the chat the navigating state website, at home. And they might also need to do that in maybe the unemployment. So we're going to use this as a launching pad to start breaking some of these topics down into just step by step what people are facing. And this is going to uncover new and different ways that the library can help out with different smaller tasks that maybe you already do and maybe you haven't thought about before. Oh, so in the chat, we've got learning Word docs. And they would probably be at home or at work or at school if they're going to be using it. And there's also upskilling and reskilling for jobs too. So people who are trying to learn how to make a website or people who are learning how to use Microsoft Excel or Access to get a job. And I will give you a second to ponder this while I drink my pomegranate, raspberry, and strawberry green tea from Twinings. Reset passwords. So while you're thinking about that, down below here, I will start putting in some stuff that other libraries have started brainstorming, stuff that I've run into before, stuff that I've tried in the past, about how to translate these tasks into an actual library service. So how will you functionally use this type of exercise? So in terms of resetting passwords, what can you do to help people figure that out? You can make a bookmark with recommended password tips and tricks. You can make a printable infographic with tips and show how to use a password manager in one-on-one training or workshop. Connect to tutorials and resources to learn password managers or password safety. You can set up, so for everything, you can set up a digital skills email bundle Basically what a digital skills email bundle is that you start doing reference interviews or start finding out what kind of information people need. A lot of times people need the same flavor of information over and over again. So you can set up an email template that has a collection of these infographics that are attached, or you can set up just an email template that says, people are trying to figure out passwords. Let me choose this template and send it off with the information that they need. Or you can do a digital skill bundle, which is basically an example would be people want to learn password and online safety. A bundle of grab and go resources with infographics, flyers, information resources, and etc. And make it available to library staff as a quick resource during reference interviews. And so for learning Word or Google Docs, you can also make another digital skills bundle, either email or printed resource. And this bundle would have tutorials, refresher tutorials, micro learning, emails. So a micro learning email, for anyone who's curious about it, is, so a lot of times, you know how the formal classes didn't work? So a lot of that is because it's just a lot of information all at once and you're just trying to throw everything at everybody all the time. But people don't remember things that way. Like, I know that I don't learn things that way. So micro learning emails breaks down the topic of learning Microsoft Word or Google Docs into smaller steps. Then you can use an email delivery system that sends out different chunks of information just every week. And then this is, so basically people would get a new tutorial every Thursday. They could run through the tutorial, do the practice, learn a little stuff, and then they would have the email to refer back to refresh themselves on the skill when they try to do it later. And that way you're kind of incrementing the learning so people can process it instead of chucking it all at once, where people, so half of them don't show up and half of them are just overwhelmed and banging their forehead against the wall. So that is micro learning. It's basically just a series of emails or written tutorials in small chunks that people can actually process. And you can do it via email. You can do it via handouts in the library. You can do it in, some people still do them via mail. And so there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. And, oh, I like the services like Instagram, Facebook, dating sites. I would love to see a library service of like how to use OkCupid. Hashtag don't screw it up. And I would go to that. So I'm gonna put I'll put this up in using devices, phone, tablet, laptop, home, work, and school. And I'm just gonna grab what I need to catch up on in chat to update this document. And Instagram, Facebook, social media, home, work, school. So now that we have kind of a brainstorming list of what this looks like, does anyone have any questions about how this would translate into a library service, given the examples that we have down here? And a lot of this is just going to be practice and kind of in the moment when you're actually putting it together. But I just want to make sure that to find out if there are any questions at the moment. I don't see any popping in right now. So we're going to go over. So we started thinking about how people use it, but now what are the different delivery formats? We went over some of them down here, but what are the actual tools people are using? What are the new ways that people can learn online and in person? So that is going to be where we're headed next. So the next step in trying to plan out your library service is to choose whether it's going to be online or in person and what format you want to do. So I'm going to open up the library service options. So from the brainstorming, talking to the digital navigators and talking to a bunch of different groups, these are some of the recommended options for delivering these digital skills to the people who need them. So a lot of you already talked about some of the biggies on here. So the one-on-one training, the group training, infographics are really popular. They're kind of awesome for breaking out information and chunking it out so people can just have it in their hand while they're actually doing it. And I will open this up. This is a planning resource that I put together. So this is the different options that have been made available that a lot of you probably already use already. And when you scroll down through this document, it'll give you different planning guides. So when you click this open, and I'll open it into a new tab here, this will give you a quick rundown for how to plan and organize a workshop in your own library, from setting out what you want to do to getting out the materials that you need to put together, to finding out the best way to format a workshop agenda so that the people who are helping out are able to follow it. And I put together a checklist of information that you might want to use to make sure that you aren't missing any of the steps and that you have all the materials available for the actual day. So if you're either new to putting together workshops, haven't done it in a while, or you're just trying to find out what's new in workshop land, then this is a good document to go to. And this is just kind of a helpful checklist just to run through, make sure you did everything. One thing that you always want to remember to do is if you are reserving speakers, to send them a quick reminder email shortly before the event so that they remember you exist. So don't hurt. And I will share this document out if you didn't already grab it. So I will copy the link and put it in here. So what I will do now is just give you a few moments to sift through this document and kind of get acquainted with the different options that are available. What we're going to be doing with that information is I'm going to take a quick survey to find out which formats people are most interested in. That's where I'll funnel my resources to start creating more options and creating more stuff that will tie that service into the digital skills as grab and go resources. And pulling up that survey now while you read. So I'm starting to get some survey responses in. I will give you a little more time to read through that. And then I will let you know what the top picks were. We've got almost everyone here. So between this group and some of the groups that have already taken this survey, the top choices are one-on-one training is a crowd favorite. And then a workshop is next. Print materials, including infographics and brochures, handouts is after that. Then a group training. And then we have a 1, 2, 3, 4-way tie for the next spot, which is group discussion, curated resource pack, book and resource displays, and videos and webinars. And that includes a YouTube tutorials, the Coursera online courses, or the micro learning thing that I talked about via email. So the next thing on here is there's about 8 million different ways to do all these different services. So now we're going to talk about some of the different tools and methods that you can use to deliver some of these. So a one-on-one training was the top pick. So I will use that one as an example. So I'm going to open up this document just because I happen to have it open and handy already. And I will run through an example of it. So a one-on-one training delivery formats is what we're talking about. So these can be in person, they can be over the phone, over screen share, via phone or computer. They can be done over Zoom, GoToMeeting, video conferencing. And they can be done, you can do an email delivery That's like the micro learning that I talked about before. And it can be all at once. Oh, so I'll put this into a new category here. Timing and spacing. So it can be a one-shot training. It can be a chunked out piece by piece, like the micro learning I talked about. It can be segmented based on goals, or it can be asynchronous, which would be, ooh, did not spell that right. There we go. So basically kind of an at your own pace thing. You would make the information available online, then you would help people work through, set the goals of what they actually want to accomplish, point them toward the information that would help them meet those goals. Then they can access the information as they need it. Because honestly, one of the biggest things people have been running into is libraries are awesome at giving messes of information all at once and then relying on the fact that people know what they want and are able to choose the best information to get them there. So one of the biggest things that libraries have been able to help with is to stop assuming that and keep making the information available, but also help doing with reference interviews and helping people work through what their life goals are, what their purpose is, what keeps them going, and set a set of achievable goals. With that set of achievable goals, you can build a little table that will help people connect the actual resource that you provide with what they want to do. By tying what you provide with what they want to do and making that clear, direct link, then you can help them chunk out how they're going to approach this information and make it achievable based on what else they're facing in life. So an example would be goal. I want to learn Microsoft Word to get a job. Well, that's great, but you need a little bit more information. What kind of job? Which tasks will you be doing in this job? How do you need to prove that you have this skill? I will fix that. And how much time do you have to learn this skill on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis? When do you need to learn this skill by to prove it to your employer? And where will you be when you're practicing and using these skills? What kinds of resources would be helpful as a refresher to practice and use the skills? So a person might walk into the library and say, I want to learn Microsoft Word. I need to get a job. The easiest thing that the library staff can do is send them over to GCF Learn, have them plunk down in a chair and start running through the tutorials online. but that doesn't make people come back. And some people might not be comfortable with using online resources. So another way that the library can add more value to that person who's trying to learn these skills is to help them set these goals. Because you might start running through these questions and find out that they don't actually know which job they want. And they don't actually know where they're going to use it. And they don't know what they need to do to prove to their employer that they have this skill. They don't know about certification options. They don't know about the resources that are available to help them get the most out of what they're learning. And through this kind of interview style, you might find out they don't need Microsoft Word. They might need Google Docs. They might need Microsoft Excel. They might need business communication training. And you might be able to uncover other things that the library can help with to help them meet their goals. So which other skills do you need to meet your goals? And how can the library help? And this is what makes people come back in. And this is what makes people say, I needed to go to the library. I couldn't just Google this. And so there's kind of just a variety of different ways that you can help people set these different kinds of goals. So the next thing is, how do you help library staff prepare and learn how to do something like this? So I learned this through instructional design classes and kind of like pulling information out of people to find out what they actually need. And I learned it through trial and error of teaching people digital skills for a while. But how do you teach library staff? How do you help them practice? And how do you yourself start practicing this if you don't already do it? For all I know, half of you already do it and you're just like, get with the program. But for the people that want to catch up or want to practice and learn new skills, what's coming up next is library staff training. And I'm looking at my clock to find out when I next want you to stand up and walk around so I can do my lunges. It is 2:38. We can fit in one more thing. Will I queue up my next documents? Do we have any questions, recommendations, tools, tips, or tricks about what we just talked about? And FY, the next thing that we'll be going over is exactly the tools, tips, and tricks. So there is that. And while I'm thinking about it, would anyone want more specific training on how to do the reference interview style format to get to dig into these goals and to find out what people actually want, when, where, and why? And you can put a yay or a nay. We have someone who's raising a hand here. Can you unmute yourself? Can you chat?
Yeah, that was me. I was like, oh, yes, please.
Yeah. And so I'm also looking at different delivery formats. That's kind of the best way to get you all this information too. So if you could start thinking about, do you like this workshop format? Do you like an online delivery format? Or do you like a one-on-one training option? I can do one of them, all of them, a combination of the above. The direction I'm learning so far from what people have given me is a virtual option so that you can reference it and learn it as you go, and also a one-on-one training option, and just knowing that it exists through a workshop. All right. So I am going to open up my tools, tips, and tricks. Because once you start figuring out what people need, you'll need to connect them with the tools and resources that will help them get there. So these digital skill clusters, you might have already seen these just because I had linked it over to, the workshop description, but this is a collection of resources that I've separated out by category. So for people that are looking for a job, that was our second most popular question. When you click down here, and I'm going to open up my directory here. So this is chunked out by category so that you can start figuring out what will be most helpful. These Coursera ones are actually newer. So some of you may and may not know that these exist already. But this one has been pretty helpful for people because there were a lot of requests for library staff don't always have like the bandwidth to be able to sit with each and every person and be able to walk them through and guide through like an expert level version of writing a cover letter and resume. And there were some people that they needed to simultaneously learn how to use Google Docs and learn how to do a resume. And that's what this tool does. So it will open up a split screen that has Google Docs on the left-hand side and a guided instruction tutorial on the right-hand side. And it will basically say, click in here to add in a description, click in here to fill in a template, click in here to blah, 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 blah. So all the library staff member would have to do is help them click this link open, know to click on the go to guided tutorial, get them logged in. Mine aren't automatically logged me in because I use Coursera for other classes. So it just did it automatically. And then you would need to start clicking through to I've already did a demo of this before, so it shows that I've done this already. But basically you just scroll through, learn what's actually covered in the class. It breaks it down into individual specific tasks. And it also lets you do kind of a quick click as a refresher to go to these tasks. And then you can go to the next item. I do agree to use this tool responsibly, Google. And this is what it looks like. And it'll ask to, so this is where a lot of patrons have gotten stuck, is they don't realize that they have to log into both Coursera and a Google account. Or they lose the password like I did right now. Ooh. I'm just gonna go to forgot password because I'm not gonna remember that thing. If I remember the last password I used with this Google account, I would just remember my password, Google. Try another way. And account recovery. It sent it to my phone. Why do you make life hard, Google? Open the settings app. See, this right here just makes me not want to use this tool anymore. So let me try. I'm going to do something different here. Leave the page. And I'm going to log in using a different account. Next. See if I remember this one. Forget my password. Confirm the phone number. Yes, fine. Do you have your phone? Why, yes. Yes, I do have my phone, Google. Is this you trying to recover your account? Why, yes, Google. And it is the number 35. Oh, thanks, Google. Getting the Google verification code. 962442. Next. For really? Welcome to digital literacy. Oh, I did add a recovery email. Gmail, you are my recovery email. And continue. Welcome to Google Docs. Now you can hit the play button on the right-hand side. Get the tutorial.
I'm instructor for this course titled
And actually use it. So this is one of the biggest barriers to digital literacy, is understanding the process of gaining access to the tools that will help you do what you need to do. And the role of the library staff is to be able to walk people through the process of getting to this point right now. And then 9 times out of 10, people can watch the video and figure it out. But at least now you know that stuff like this exists, so that if people actually do happen to have their correct Gmail password and they're able to get into their account and don't have to bang their forehead against a wall like I just did, then this is actually a pretty easy tool to use. It just makes it difficult if you don't remember your password and don't use a password manager. So alternatives, if you don't want to do the thing that I just did, is you can go through GCF Learn, and you can also go through Indeed. So GCF Learn, if you haven't used it before, is walking people through either a YouTube playlist for how to do the various steps down here, or using a written guide for how to get started with these services. And one thing that I haven't added on here yet, but I really probably should, is a digital learn these here. So this digital learn was made by the PLA Public Library Association, and it is a series of tutorials that will show you step by step how to walk through these various different, using job searches, using career sites, and using a variety of different things. And another thing that I didn't add on here yet, but I am going to now, is, oh, I did that one. Oh, what is the name of it now? Oh, when I think of it, I will add it on there. But so there are a variety of different options for applying for jobs. They used to make Coursera easier to get into, and then apparently Google happened. But there are also options for being able to write a CV and workshop using written instructions. There are other tools via Coursera that will not make you log into a Google account. And there are tutorials for how to use LinkedIn so that you can kind of curate your online presence and make yourself look better to employers. And a lot of library staff, they may not use Twitter or another social media personally, but there are resources that will show you how to leverage that tool if that's something that a patron happens to want to do. Apparently, instructional designers are all over the place on Twitter, so it's been recommended that I start a Twitter account, but I can't bring myself to be a tweeter. One day. And so there's just kind of a mess of resources for the people who actually do want to learn Microsoft Office. The role of the library in here would be to either, the easiest way would be direct people over to this resource. The step above that would be to help people set their goals and to figure out what they actually want to do. And then the step above that would be to open this up. Oh, this is a bad example. This one. And start mapping out the resources that would tie directly to that person's goals and help them chunk it out into time segments. And of course, my account settings are out of date. So you can chunk it out into time segments to say, you are going to be cooking dinner for your kids from 4 p.m. until 5 p.m. Then you're going to eat a leisurely dinner. And when the kids go upstairs to work on their tablets or working on their homework, then you can spend about an hour and a half working on these tutorials that will tie into this goal. And then if you set aside 3 hours per day to work on these sets of tutorials on this timeline, you'll be able to reach your learning goal of learning Microsoft Word for an office assistant position by the end of October. And this is just kind of helping them out with what they need to learn and building out time management skills to be able to get set up with online learning and stay on track so that they don't get into a world of frustration. And let me pop back in here. And I'm going to make a note for myself in here to grab an alternative for Coursera. And add digital learn. So the next big thing on here is interview preparation was another big question that I got. So this same process can be used for people who are learning Zoom to connect with friends and family, or people who are learning to use Zoom for current or upcoming interviews. So you can actually do kind of a dry run in the library, and you can help people sit down and practice setting up a session after walking them through it, and help them start kind of building that muscle memory to start remembering the process and remembering the procedure. And then at the end of it, hand them the bookmark that has the mini infographic that is basically the reminder of everything that they just did in a convenient process, in a convenient little bookmark format. And you can do the same thing with, I'm pretty sure Zoom is more popular than Skype now. It's considerably more popular. And there's also if you are going to be using Zoom as a training tool, you'll probably want to make sure that people can use Zoom before you actually get on the phone with them. So you can either hop on the phone and walk them through the Zoom process before actually doing the training using Zoom. And that will help them get up to speed and set up on Zoom before learning the thing they actually need to learn. And you can also break that up into 2 separate segments so that you can have a Zoom training so people can learn and then do the training from their own home using Zoom. And you might also want to start getting comfortable with remoting into computers using something like AnyDesk or another tool like that, so that if people get stuck, you can take over their mouse on their computer and be able to get them through this part they're stuck on so that they can get on to the rest of the process. And you might also want to look into your library's policy about sharing information and remoting into computers, because it's an awesome tool, but your library might not let you do it if they have privacy security policies in place. Food for thought. And I think I already shared this link out, but if I didn't, I will put it in now. Oh. So basically, this is when you start doing reference interviews and trying to pull out what people actually need. This is a resource that you can go to kind of go to this table of contents, choose the topic that people are asking about, and then look at the mini subtopics to find out what people actually need, and then pull out the resource based on their goals. And then you can figure out the best library service that will be able to connect them with that information once you have that resource. So for an example, parenting and technology, it can either be a one-on-one training or a group discussion, because people like to share those best practices and ideas. And you can also do a identify fake news. You can do a workshop that has hands-on activities so people can look at actual fake news articles and identify why it's fake. So I'll click down to this fake news, and this is a newsletter quiz that will give you a 7-question pop quiz and just ask you whether you can determine which one is fake and which one is real. So we'll get started. There's a little mini blurb about what you're doing. And you can, so this one I actually kind of like because it asks if you want the version that's targeted toward liberals or conservatives, because this has been kind of a hot button topic for when people have been trying to teach this in a library. Is you might choose an example and then make people angry because they feel like they're being targeted. So that's why this news literacy project just starts out by asking, what kind of example do you want? So we'll just grab this one because it's on top and then go to continue. And then it'll ask you to look at this image, and you can click it to view it larger. And then it'll ask you to view Congresswoman Laura Boebert took this group in a guided tour of the Capitol one day before the insurrection. 3 of the people participated and knew exactly where to go. Is this fake or is this real? We'll go back here. And it was not real because you could not verify it. So it'll just ask you to go through just a series of these, and then it'll tell you whether you're right or not and give you kind of why that was true or not. So this has kind of been an eye-opener for people that have been trying to determine fake news and find the starting point of where they're actually at. And there's also if you're looking for a resource for infographics, this is a good one. You can actually just print this off and make it available. And this is a checklist that people can ask to start asking themselves mental questions while they are trying to figure out if something is real or not. So you can pull up an example in the library of something that you want to determine whether it's fake news. And then you can start asking people to just go through these different questions about, how do you feel right now? Is this intentionally making you angry? Is it designed to trigger an emotion out of you? And then you would go through these and just use this as your litmus test. And there's also an article format with a video option so that if people are video or visual learners, this is a good way to go. And if you have other tools that you like, then feel free to pass them along, and I would love to add them on here, and we can help people out. So that's kind of a good example of how to get people thinking about it. But then the other question is, will fake news be enough to actually bring people into the library on its own? So it is 3:02, and I think that this is a good time for my lunges. So we are going to come back at 3:12, and then we'll start diving into the next part. And I am setting my alarm now. 20 lunges, 15 calf raises, and some boxer shuffles. So I'm awake. All right, so let's get started here. I'm going to hop back into my slides. We'll do a quick recap of which step we're on right now. And then we will mosey on into how to prepare staff and also kind of gather the resources and figure out who's doing what. All right, so this is kind of assuming that we've gone through the exercises and we have a general idea of who we want to target, who is going to be learning. We have figured out a problem. Then we did a general brainstorming of where people are going to be, the types of resources that will be most helpful as they're going through the process. And then we chose a library service. Then there are those planning documents and resources available that will help you build that checklist of what you need based on the type of service that you want to provide. And then you can start figuring out which steps you need to do, build yourself a to-do list, and start making sure that you have all the materials that you need to get the job done. So now the question is, how do you prepare staff to get ready to do something like what we just looked at with one-on-one trainings or doing the reference interviews or different things like that? So one thing I will open here, and I'm going to close some of these tabs so I can find stuff a little more easily. Leave page. So I will open up this. So this is a good place to start out here. Let me see if I can find it in here. Okay, so there is a technology reference interview that is kind of like your opening beginner level start to being able to figure out what people's goals are and trying to connect them with resources. So this is made by Colorado Library System. And apparently I recently did a demonstration of this, but I do not want to resume where I left off. I just want to go to the beginning. So this is just a slideshow made by like Storyline Articulate that has kind of the library staff member and just sort of like a cartoon version of like the training process, but it'll help you kind of get started with that process and start thinking about when people ask a question, how are you going to pull out additional information? And I have a love-hate relationship with this delivery format, but it also gets the job done. So I link to it. And you can kind of run through this process to start getting an idea of how that reference interview works. And kind of the next step up here is a reference tips and tricks for being able to run through like the general process of how that works. This version is a little bit more academic-y, like it's more of a research paper, but it also gives you the information that you need. So I like the info, so I link to it. And I will also start putting together like a training through the Library Commission and start putting together some practice sessions to start helping people practice pulling the digital skill goals out of people and help people and practice through connecting to the resources, information in ways that are going to be most effective for people to actually use the stuff. But until I can get that together, this is a good place to start. And so if you want other ways to prepare your staff or prepare yourself to get started with this, it's basically just kind of making that list. So we're assuming that you've chosen the library service that you want to provide, and you started breaking it down into different steps. So what I'll ask now is, do people feel pretty comfortable with delivering the library services that we talked about? Or would you like me to run through an example of how maybe a group training would actually work? And you can give me a yes or a no in the chat to go over an example right now. I got crickets. You can also unmute yourself if you actually want to use your words. Got a couple votes for an example. I will call that, give an example. So we'll close out of this here. And I'm going to open up a document so that I can run through that example. And I'm just going to add on to the sample sheet that we've been working on so far. So we're going to go from the stage of a person walks into your library and asks a general question. And you've just found out kind of what they want to get out of this. And you found out what goals they want to achieve by learning these skills. So let's stick with the Microsoft Word example because it's a pretty universal example. You can pretty much replace Excel, or you can replace applying for jobs with this, and it's the same general process. So you can find out some of these you can ask directly, and some of them you just kind of know just based on the demographic, which would be, where will you be when you use the information? What is your current digital skill level? Are you comfortable using Zoom over the phone instruction or only in person? And what is the best format to deliver this information? And what is library staff comfortable doing with the time and resources available? And are you working with partners to provide the services? So with this information, let's say that the person who wants to learn Microsoft Word, they are going to be at home and at work when they use it. Their current digital skill level is they know computer basics, navigating websites, using keyboard and mouse, and are comfortable, but are not comfortable using only online resources. They prefer starting in person, then shifting to Zoom or over the phone for intermediate and advanced level options. So the best delivery format is a one-on-one training with a in-person to start, then online over Zoom after they get comfortable with the basics. And library staff is a part-time with limited time for library services. And volunteers come in to help with digital skill training, but it is intermittent. And you are working with a American Job Center and Goodwill. So now you know that library staff will want to start thinking about the skills that they have currently, what they need to do, and the skills that are needed to do that. So skills for one-on-one training would be, and I'm going to use my handy dandy bolded list here. So even though you are going to be using a in-person method to start, the only way that you're going to be able to keep continuing offering this session is by continuing it using online resources, because you have limited staff and time resources to be able to give that much one-on-one attention. So you need to be able to get comfortable teaching in person and online. So you need to be able to shift from face-to-face to delivering the same information online. And then break topics down into smaller categories to teach the material, and know how to use, if you're teaching Microsoft Word, it helps to be familiar with Microsoft Word, at least for the basics. Microsoft Word or relevant tools. And know how to use Zoom as a teaching tool. And I might add to this list later if I think of something, but we'll leave it there for now. And assess current skills. So let's assume that our fictional librarian is, oh, and also able to conduct technology reference interviews. Able to help students meet specified goals and select available resources. Select skill, I'll call it experience level appropriate resources. So they are comfortable teaching in person. They do it all the time. They love it. And they're able to help students articulate goals and choose resources. And they are also able to, they know Microsoft Word and know, but they need practice areas for improvement. Now they need to know how to get comfortable teaching online and to conduct technology reference interviews. And then they want to practice breaking topics down into feasible chunks and delivering the material and designing practice activities to help people learn and process the material. And they also want to practice using Zoom as a teaching tool. So now the big question is how, when, where will you learn? So this is a part-time staffer, and it might be and it's also working in combination with volunteers. So both of these will need to be cross-trained to be able to do this. So now the question is, how much time will it take to learn this? How and when will they learn and practice this to get comfortable being able to do this on a day-to-day basis? So the how is they need to be off desk for a certain time period to learn initial skills. And is the library staff and volunteers comfortable with learning skills independently online using tutorials. This is not entirely grammatically correct, but I will take it. Are there partner organizations who are willing to help train library staff? Are there partner organizations who are willing to directly teach patrons? Because if there are partner organizations who are willing to directly teach patrons, then the library staff, they don't necessarily have to learn all of these skills. They just need to learn how to conduct the technology reference interviews and do kind of a warm handoff to the partner organization. And so that's kind of a good way to start splitting this out and figuring out what staff actually need to know based on the resources that are available. And so what I'm going to do after this example is we're going to do a kind of a brainstorming activity to start thinking about partner organizations, both who you use now and start mapping out some different options at a local, regional, state, and national level who might be able to step in and start helping to solve some of these problems. All right, so the how, when, where, and why is now you need to create or find a training program for library staff. And so some of the same programs that you would use to teach patrons how to use Zoom, you can also use for library staff. So that's just kind of the separate skills. But if you are training, a library staff member, or if you are learning these skills for yourself, you'll want to be able to set really solid goals for the type of skills you need to learn for each one of those tools. So what is it exactly that you want to be able to do on Zoom to use it as a training tool? Do you need to be able to use the chat function? Do you need to know how to share files and share different information? Are you going to be using something like Google Docs? So something that I thought about when I was planning out this workshop is, what is the easiest way that I'm going to be able to access these tools and information resources to share out to you guys while I'm delivering this? And that is why I used the Google Slides. So Google Slides, I was able to embed all of the resources into the slide so that I can click it through and then also use this as a personal reference point to make sure that I'm covering stuff in a relatively good, decent order. And it's also something that I can share out to you all so that you can access all of these same resources that I just shared out in the same order that they were shared out during the workshop. And this way I don't have to do extra work in creating more handouts. It's all just built into the same thing. And this can also be saved as it can be shared out as a link, or it can be shared out and downloaded as a PDF. So you can do a file, download, PDF, and then we'll open it. And this is kind of a good way to just get all the information all in one spot. FYI, I'll be sharing out a PDF of what we just talked about at the end of this workshop. And then you'll want to figure out which tools you have access to and which ones are the best ones to use when you're doing your own workshop. And the other thing that I had to figure out is the activities. So some of the activities I used was the surveys and polling, and I just used a Google Forms because it was the quickest, easiest, not to mention free way to ask people and get a litmus test of what they're interested in. And then there is also a tab on there that'll let me view the responses in real time. And it'll also let me collect the information from various different groups so that I can just mash it all into one spot and I don't have to think about it too much. And a lot of you might already use Google Forms, but if you don't, that's why I used it. And then there are also, there's a variety of different activities that you can do. The easiest one to do is just something like these Google Docs, so that you just click it open, people can share ideas and type into it. And there's also, for planning and brainstorming, there's also things like Miro. So Miro is basically like a giant virtual Post-it. So you can start a whiteboard, and I'm going to sign in through my email. And you can start building like a little chart on here and share it out with people. And there's also a little custom tutorial that'll show you how to use the tool to begin with. And then you can start typing in and saying, this is how planning and then you can start adding in your different options. And this is kind of a good tool to be able to share this out and just build out a plan right then and there. But then the other thing that to think about is, would people be comfortable using this tool as an activity? Or would they need to have a little bit of time during the workshop to learn how to use this tool before using it? The reason that I didn't use something like this during this session is because I didn't know if people would be super comfortable using it. I've had mixed reviews and mixed results in being able to use it in a larger group setting. So I just played it safe and used Google Docs. And so there's just kind of different considerations to choose when you're choosing activities. But one thing that is incredibly popular is things like Flipgrid. And so I don't have time to go over every single tool that's available to use as an activity or a resource. But what I will do is I'll share out a set of activities that I've been collecting over time. It's going to take me a little bit to put it together, but I will share it out to everyone once I've got it together. And I'll probably also do an end compass about it because I'm looking for more topics. And if anyone has any recommendations for tools or activities like Poster or Flipgrid or activities like that, feel free to share them. I'm always looking for something. So I will close these so I can get back in here. There. So now you need to build a training plan. Choose your teaching tools and resources and build in learning time for library staff to learn the teaching tools and resources, and design learning activities, practice activities for library staff to learn and practice the teaching techniques before shoving them into the deep end. And ask for library staff comfort level along the way. Did you have enough practice time? And did this process work? So the biggest meat of this is going to be just finding out where people are at right now, and then building a training plan and setting aside enough time to be able to learn all the stuff. And it might mean that you have to push back the actual workshop or one-on-one training for about a month or so, but at least people are going to be comfortable doing it. And working with these partner organizations might be kind of a good stopgap in the meantime, or it might be good to just take something off the plate of library staff if you don't have someone full-time, or if you're a solo librarian, or just a variety of other reasons. All right, so you have chosen your library service, and no matter what the library service is, you can still break it out into chunks to find out what people actually need to know, and then identify what people already know, find the areas for improvement, and then set aside time and set up learning activities or find learning resources to help build those skills. And in the case of Microsoft Word, luckily the resources are pretty much everywhere. But sometimes you might need to custom build something if you want to try something new. I feel like I just threw a lot of information at you, but there's really no way around that. All right, so now I'm going to move into asking if there are any questions about how this process works and how you might want to try it in your library. And you can either unmute yourself, you can put your question into chat, or you can, however you want to communicate, I'm okay with that. And I will also put my email into the chat just in case you think of a question now, or you have a question that you don't want the whole world to see. So that is my email address. And I'm also setting up time so that you can basically set up a one-on-one so that we can run through just setting up this entire process in your individual case. These workshops are great for just letting you know the entire process and what's available, but it's not so great for actually personalizing this and customizing this and taking the time to set up these individual tasks for yourself. So some of you might be comfortable doing this on your own, and others may want to set up a one-on-one that will slow down this process, work it through step by step, and will generate the actual materials via a screen share. And it'll take a little longer, but it's also, you'll probably get more out of it. I mean, it's the same thing that you already said at the beginning of this whole thing. Group trainings don't always work incredibly well. And it's mostly because you can't get that personalized attention. And there's that frustration level that says, this is not the level that I'm at right now, and I need to go back about 5 steps before and start covering this material over again. And you're right, it's something that doesn't work very well in a workshop format. The purpose of this is more to understand the resources that are available and kind of the processes that we're going to be going through. And if you want to book the one-on-one training time to just work through it, my email's in the chat. All right, so we are at 3:44 here, so there'll be time to run into the marketing side of things. So the marketing is getting the word out there to show people that this new service exists. So I'll go over some different methods and ways that people can connect with this information, and we'll start thinking about where people are when they are thinking about solving these problems and when this stuff is going to be most relevant to them. The last hour of this is going to be just sitting down to run through these processes and start making a plan for the service that you actually want to use. So we're just going to have a guided hour that you'll be able to sit down, process, and run through this for yourself. All right, so marketing. Let me open up this user persona sheet just for reference here. And I'm going to open up the one that we'd completed and downloaded before. And I will blow this up. So the example that we had used before is for job seekers. So these job seekers, they are teens and adults. They can be a variety of different ages. And a lot of them are working around different school or family obligations, and they are trying to fit this in so that they can get the job that they want or be able to meet a life goal. So they might want to improve their job skills so that they can take better care of their family, or they have a loved one who is going into a retirement home and they want to be able to help them out. So they want to be able to make more money to have a more comfortable living for everyone. And they are also trying to work around a usually very hectic schedule. They might be parents, they're facing a variety of different things. But family and community and wanting to build a better life for everyone is what is keeping them going. So this motivation is what you want to put into your marketing. When you are choosing the images and choosing the phrasing and choosing how you are reaching out to people, this is what you want to do. If you've ever seen ads from Facebook or ads from those bigger companies, that's how they do it. They want to build a story. They want to understand who people are, what they're reaching for, and insert their product into that story. So that's why Facebook is never, I want you to click on my ads so that you can generate more revenue for me. No one would click on that. Instead, we're connecting friends and family. We are bringing people together. We are sharing ideas and we are spreading a wealth of information. That is Facebook. That is connection. That is social media. And that is the story that libraries are telling. But we want to add in the layer of connect with friends and families, but stay safe. Connect with friends and families in the best way possible. And so I'm going to open up Canva. Canva, if you haven't used it already, is one of the easiest, most awesome tools that I've found for marketing, for social media, for making videos, for designing flyers and brochures, infographics, and just a mess of stuff. So let's go into, so this is what you get when you first click into Canva. And you can click on one of these various different categories, or you can run a search for what you're looking for. But I'm just going to click on social media and click on Facebook post. And this automatically sizes so that it looks good on a Facebook feed. Then you can click through on the left-hand side to find a different format that you might be looking for. So if you are advertising an event, usually the birthday, the summer, or some sort of spring, or one of these here. So I'm going to grab let's grab this. So I'm going to get rid of this picture and we're going to shift it out with something that fits a little bit better. So this is going to be for people wanting to change to a different career. And then we'll change this by going into the more, and I want Pixabay. So I'm going to search for family. And so what I'm looking for now is this picture is going to get popped into this side here, but I'm looking for it to be framed so that it's not cutting off the part of the image that I actually want to show up. So I'll give the example of, let's just pop this one in here, and then we drag it to the spot where we want it to pop in. And now it's going to cut off this section and crop it to where it's going to be. So you can also do computer and do this. And it just pops that in there. And then you can change the color of this so that it pops a little bit more. And then change this. Then we'll expand this out so that it fits a little better. And I'll ungroup it so that I can make more changes to this. And make this a little bigger so it's easier to read. And then change this so that there's a date and a time. And shift this over. So the transparency is what is kind of making that image look a little muddier. So you can either you can change that transparency so that it shows completely up, or you can shift it up so you can start seeing that blue coming in from behind. That's why that picture looked a little muddier. And if you change this to a different color, the visual on this will change because of that transparency setting. But I think the blue was actually easier to read. But you can kind of mess around with the different color settings on here and start getting this to look the way that you wanted it to. And you can change this to a different color so that it's easier to read. And so you can choose an image that is going to be the job that they actually want to get. So if you know that people are going for a office assistant job, or if they want to learn about CNC machines for manufacturing, then you can start popping that kind of imagery into your marketing. And you can also start popping in pictures of family if people are learning about Zoom. And you can start just kind of making people think about what they're doing and why they want to do it. And photo collage marketing is a personal favorite. And I'm going to make this a little bit less muddy. And then once you are done with this, you can either share it directly over to social media. You can publish it to Facebook. This will change based on the format that you are choosing. If you choose Instagram, it'll ask you to publish to Instagram, or you can download it as a PNG and upload it into Facebook, your website, or anywhere that you want to put it. I usually recommend downloading it to downloading the PNG, even if you do publish it to Facebook, because sometimes you will want to just pop it into your website just to have it in both spots. And so I did promise that I would talk about some different ways that you might want to insert your marketing and to connect this stuff over to the people who are looking for it. So some common ways that, well, actually, these are probably a little more uncommon, but just a variety of ways that you can do it is if you have a nearby bench that has an advertising board onto it, you can put it onto bench side advertising. If you have local restaurants, like family restaurants or just places where people like to go, you can put it onto restaurant tabletops. You can put it onto message boards. You can share it out through community church groups. You can share it out through local coffee shops. You can put it onto shared community boards. You can put it on other people's websites or Twitter feeds. So if you have local partner organizations, you can also ask them, hey, can you share this flyer out? We're doing something and we want to connect more people. And you can also put it out through community colleges, local schools. If you are trying to reach a tween to teen audience, you can take it to K through 12 schools. And you can also start figuring out which social media K through 12 actually prefers to use if you are targeting that market. A lot of times it is Snapchat, or they might be using Twitter. If you go to Common Sense Media, they have a bunch of surveys where they found out which social media different age brackets like to use. So if you're targeting that target audience, you can use that as kind of a starting point to find out where people are at. And a lot of times the local schools will know too. So you can ask them and they'll be able to shift you over to where they are. And you can even just pair up with the local school and say, could you hand this out to your classes or make it a requirement, and we'll be good to go. And there's also radio spots. There are TV ads, and so if you are doing a radio spot, you can also record your own stuff and add in fun sounds and different things like that. I have some podcasting resources if you're looking for tools to do audio recording. And you can also record a video that's advertising the different skills. So you can use Canva to record a video. You can use something like Biteable or an animation video service. I do have a video production guide that probably has more information than you ever wanted to know, but it will help you figure out which style of video and which resources you need to do that video. So if you wanted to experiment with green screen, there are a set of resources and tools that will help you do it. All right, and I will share out this video production guide if you do want to take a gander at it. Oh, sorry, that just went to one person. Let me copy it out to everyone. And I will also put in the podcast guide that also has additional tools and resources that will help you with choosing equipment, recording and editing. And there are also some marketing tips in here. So I'm going through these pretty quick, but if you want to slow down and look at them, there are some marketing tips in there too. So I will copy this link to the podcasting guide for librarians. Pop that in here. This is great if you want to do a podcast that is library run. You can put in mini ads for different services and resources you have coming up. Or you can have students come into the library that want to learn how to do podcasting and audio editing. And you can recommend that one of the activities that they use to learn is to record a marketing tutorial or a marketing spot for a library service. So now students are learning about it and they're also recording library marketing. So it's a twofer. And you can also practice putting together a kind of a marketing brief for library staff. So the library staff would put together the marketing brief that says, this is what we're trying to do. This is kind of the vibe that we're going for. And this is the audience that we're aiming for. And then you can give that to local students, both kids and adults, and just let them have their way with it. And that'll bring more people in and help people learn the skill and do the thing. It also looks great on a resume. And so let me close these. I will close Canva and this and this. So now we're going to sit down and you're going to practice this from start to finish. So this is the guided walkthrough part of it that I talked about. I'm going to ask you I will queue up a document and ask each of you to pull up that document on your own computer and start filling it out and working through it. And this is the time to share ideas and ask any questions about the process and kind of start practicing it through. So I'm going to start out with closing my mess of stuff. And we're going to go back to the tip top here. And I will share out this worksheet here. Copy link. And now you're also going to practice using these resources for yourself instead of just as a group. So if you could open up that document, open link. And go up to File and make a copy. And this is going to make a copy on through your account on your service. And you'll be able to make edits that only you can change. If you are not a Google Doc user, you can also go into download and download it into Microsoft Word, and you'll be able to make edits through there. And this is how you can kind of reset it so that you can start doing this for yourself. Once you've filled this out into your own version, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to ask people to start sharing out who they're working with and the type of what their tactics are going to be. So who you're going to be working with and how are you going to overcome some of the challenges that makes it difficult to reach that audience? That is the 2 questions I will be asking. And please respond in chat so I know when people are getting done with this. It may not take 10 minutes. All right, so does anyone either want to type into the chat or unmute yourself to share who your target market is and how you're going to overcome challenges? And we're going to be taking this as a foundation for the next step in the process, so you can start just right now building out a service for your own library. So one person working on job seekers. Oh. And my next question is going to be, I'm going to open this. Partners. Oh, homeschool parents is a big one. So I do also have tech kits through the mail that a lot of homeschool parents have been interested in using. So let me pull this up. Tech kits. So the Q Robot, Ozobot, Merge, Snap Circuit, and well, these are only for 13 and over. But so these kits they have curriculum that go with it. They are standards aligned, and schools love the little Ozobot, and the Q Robot has also been really popular. And I'm also expanding my tech kits with some new funding that's coming in. So stay tuned. If you do want to try these in your library, I am now taking reservations for them because I was just given clearance to send these top 6 out, but I still can't send out the VR headsets because they go directly on the face, and yeah, it skeeves people out. So these are, I'll send a link to the tech kits. If you want to sign up for one, you can click on request kit, and there's just a quick Google form that you can fill out, and it'll just ask your email, your library name, and library contact, and then it'll ask you which kit you want to get sent. And then it'll run you through to ask how many you want and when you're going to need it. Just the basics. And if you do want one of the VR headsets, you can still sign up for it, but it'll just be a little bit before they'll let me send it out. And if there are any kits that you had wanted to gain access to, but you haven't been able, either you don't have the time to get the resource and develop materials yourself, or you just don't have the funding for it, you can let me know, and then I will look at getting that kit for the tech kits to the mail. I'm already looking at the Dash and Dot, which is the other version of this Q Robot. And I am also looking at, oh, there's just a mess of them. There's another drone that's more kid friendly than this one. And I'm looking at that one. And there's also some additional circuit stuff that's out there and a bunch of software stuff. And I'm also looking at getting gaming laptops to send through the mail, just because a lot of libraries want to use them, but they can't afford them because gaming laptops are ridiculously expensive. So that's kind of one way that I'm looking at expanding access so you don't have to blow your budget on things that you might only use once in a blue moon. And so we're getting some more responses into the chat here. So we have older adults and, oh, I do like the key influencers to try to get the whole group interested. And the handouts and stuff. So if as everyone starts generating their handouts and starts kind of building out what this will look like in your library, I would also love you forever if you were to share out the resources so that we can start building a shared resource pool, because that just makes life easier for everybody. So if you find something that works and you want to share it out, just shoot me an email at amanda.sweet@nebraska.gov. And I'm starting to put together that shared resource portal so that we all don't have to do the same thing 8 million times. And so the preschool educators who want a reason to, yes. So and the tech kits might also be a good way for that too, to just get people to try new stuff without like the risk of having to use your own resources. And there's also the option of building an incentive program to say that this is kind of what you need to do to be able to succeed in this aspect of librarianship. And there's kind of a love-hate relationship with that, because I don't want to tell anyone that it's a requirement to life, even though it kind of is. But it's a slippery slope. What would we do if people didn't have access to the learning resources to get started on all this tech stuff? They'd never have a shot in the workforce, and they'd never have a shot in getting good grades in school. But I don't know. All right, so the next step on here is to start brainstorming different partners, because these are kind of fluid in the order that you do them. Sometimes you'll figure out who's learning, then you'll figure out what the problem is, and then you might bounce over to find out the partners so that you can develop a better service, and your partners are going to be able to help you figure out the best way to learn. So it just kind of, these are not all step by step in order. You can kind of bounce like around and return back to him as you see fit. So with the target audience that people have been sharing out here, you can put your target audience, the topic, basic skills, email, Zoom, etc. Who can help? So is there any other organization locally, regionally, nationally, or elsewhere that either provides resources online, provides training in person or online, or anyone who's able to just help brainstorm and help figure out the best way to learn this stuff? So adult basic skills, links, Goodwill, American Job Center, Department of Labor. Actually, that's not really good for older adults. Community colleges. Community centers. And the community centers can be localized or they can be region-wide. And community colleges are usually in the region. Oh, senior centers, yes. So let's try this for another group here. Target audience, teens and young adults. Digital skill topic. There are a few. There are job skills, adulting, because at that time they're kind of starting to navigate finances, banking, financial literacy. And actually, this is more teens, young adults, and adults in general. And also ESL. So financial literacy, it was just at the tip of my tongue and it's gone now. Oh, budgeting. I'll do financial literacy, budgeting. And I mean, this is basically all the things. I mean, name a skill people needed. So job skills and upskilling is probably one of the most requested so far. Yes, taxes, life skills, and online privacy security, communication, business, friends, family. So the partner organizations kind of varies by what they're trying to do. So job skills, upskilling, Goodwill, Coursera, edX, LinkedIn Learning, community college, university, community center, yeah, there's a mess of them. Yes, business incubators. And so I'll also put in target audience, business owners and entrepreneurs. Digital skill topic. Start a small business, idea generation, financing, venture capital funding, and marketing, market research, partner organizations, small business administration, local leaders and mentors. Thank you. Business incubators, Founders Institute, there's also Department of Economic Development, Department of Labor. Oh, that is one that I forgot up here, is Department of Economic Development, Department of Labor. Other libraries. So academic, school, special interest. Local businesses. If you want to know which skills people need, then you probably want to connect with local businesses to do job fairs, career exploration, and career exploration. Business communication. And this one would also be Coursera, edX, LinkedIn, learning, community colleges, universities. I guarantee I'm missing some on here. Who am I missing? Goodwill. There's a whole mess of these, and I just had one at the tip of my tongue that I cannot for the life of me remember right now. Oh yeah, STEM programs. Thank you. Career exploration, so career one stop. And this would also go up here. And a lot of times people just want like a tech cafe to find out which technology is possible so that they can figure out if it matches with the problems they're facing at work or in business, and then figuring out how to set the goals to learn what they need for that. And that's actually something I've been having fun with in the high tech stuff, because I heart robots and I also heart drones. And I'm looking at how this stuff actually works in business settings and working with business incubators and different people who are using this for job skills, and finding out where they fit, what kind of problems they solve, and the teams that are necessary to create this stuff. So as small businesses start exploring these different resources, they can figure out how to chart a course to learning it. So if they want to know, if small businesses want to know the teams that it takes to implement machine learning into their organization, they can use resources like this and start connecting to tech communities to start learning it. So one of the biggest ones is probably Internet of Things right now. So if people wanted to learn what Internet of Things is and then how it's being used in the real world, and then be able to identify the goals and the problems that they're facing, they can start connecting that through to learn how it's made, including the careers and teams that it takes to do it. And they can start experimenting and trying it out in the library to see if it's something that they really want to do, and then connect with learning communities to start expanding and learning the things that they actually need to do to meet their goals. So that's just something I've been kind of having fun with. And it also ties into a lot of the tech kits. So people can start playing around with the drones and then start exploring ways that it would work and see if it's actually something that they want to use in real life. And it's everywhere on farms, and they're using it to map out construction sites. And it just, I'm kind of a tech junkie. Have you noticed? So this is something that is also kind of a resource to help people start exploring different careers and things that they might want to try out. And so career one stop and tech kits. And so that would also be a good way that you can do like a technology petting zoo, just check out a whole bunch of equipment, let people try it out and start connecting it to like life and career goals, and then help them figure out and map out a way to learn this stuff. Sort of, it's the exact same way that it works with Microsoft Office, but instead it's with robots. So we went through that process of pulling out the goals that people are facing to start learning Microsoft Office. You can do the same exact thing with robots and Internet of Things and coding and building websites. Same process, different tool. And so this is basically just mapping out who's available to help and what people are facing. So this is how you would run through that process of who's your target audience, what is the digital skill topic that's going to help them meet their goals and help them do the things they want to do, and who are the partner organizations that you can start working with and start kind of improving your resources and start meeting needs in different ways. So it's just kind of looking at this problem in a different way and then asking who can help. All right, so let me pop back in here. And are there any of these partner organizations that I am missing on here? So who do you work with in your community? And you can either put it into the chat, or I am sharing out this link so that you can add stuff on here. And you'll also have access to this if you want this as a brainstorming tool. Wrong one. That apparently didn't copy the link. There we go. So you can add in partners to the categories that exist already, or you can add a new category and start building this out. And I will sip my water as people start sifting through this. I would love to hear how people are going to be working with local schools and educators too, because that's a question that has come up quite a lot. Oh, and this is one question that I've been working on here. Down here, I will put career exploration. because this is a question that I have gotten a lot, and I would love to find out what has worked for you all. And the audience, teens, adults. And this one I will also add in a programs and activities. So who have you partnered with for career exploration, for like job fairs, and for helping people figure out what they want to do in life? Oh, so you work with trainers for statewide training. Oh, cool. And it will hop up here in case people are adding in stuff up here. And I will also put in statewide training program. And that is one thing that does remind me is who are the partners who can help with training for library staff, and who are the partners who can help with training for actual patrons. Sometimes it's the same organization and sometimes it's different. Oh, I forgot about that one. The Rural Enterprise Assistance Program. What does the Buffett Institute actually do? I know I've heard the name several times, but I forget what they actually do. Oh, volunteers, yes. Partner organizations. I don't know. Let me check if United Way does job training. Their website provides links to Career One Stop and choosing the right program, but it doesn't look like they actually do the training themselves. But they probably could help with helping people identify their goals and helping people practice their skills in like a meaningful problem, like helping practice new tech skills or website skills to help out nonprofits. Do they do financial planning? It looks like United Way might help with financial planning goals. And they have a section for starting a job. That's a good question. I wonder if each United Way does something slightly different or if they all do the same kind of thing. It's worth looking into. Oh, the Buffett Institute does early childhood learning and development. Cool. So they write studies, gather data. Ooh, they'd be a good partner resource for a lot of libraries, if they're not already. Oh, the local bank is a good one. That actually does say anonymous Dumbo octopus. Not elephant? And so let me just pop up here to find out if anyone else is adding stuff and where. I know there's some at the bottom here. Cool. And probably local businesses. Oh, I put this in the wrong spot. Oops. Ooh, I am drawing a blank. I know that they're there. Who do you usually partner with to do career fairs? Oh, yeah. Does American Job Center do that too? Because I know American Job Center works with Career One Stop. And I think they might also do career exploration directly. That may also work differently at like a local level too. Because I know each American Job Center does something a little different. Oh, Goodwill. Cool. All right, so we've got a pretty good starting point here just for mapping out those potential partners and starting to figure out how to combine those together. And so this was a question that the digital navigators had, which was, would you want training on how to identify and build partners for different services? So is training for partnership something that would be helpful? And you can put that into the chat. And so I'm actually going to run through the questions that I've been working on partnering with a whole bunch of different organizations to start providing more training for digital skills, workforce development, job training, and things like that. So one of the questions was for building training to build partnerships. Another one was for Entrepreneurship 101 for librarians to understand the process and be able to provide better training or better resources to library patrons. So I'm actually just going to build another poll. I think that would be easier here. So bear with me for just a minute while I put this together. It won't take long. Okay, so the first option is going to be partnership training. And then we've got entrepreneurship 101, starting a business. Technology reference interview. High tech 101. And the last one was job seeker career changer 101. So the survey that I'm going to send out, you can just check as many as are applicable to you that you would want to learn more about or try. And so anything that ends in a 101 would be a course that would give librarians a basic understanding of how the process works, an understanding of the different partners that are available on different local, regional, state, and national levels, and then how to work with different organizations to be able to expand your resource pool and understand the needs that people need so that the library can build better services. And copying the link now, copying and pasting into the chat. So you should have the training offerings survey link in front of you. Okay, responses are still clicking in. I will sip my water. And as I suspected, the general consensus is all the things. So the number one is starting a business 101. And then tied for second is entrepreneurship 101 and job seeker 101. And the others tied for the next place. And then we have another vote for emotional intelligence. Oh, that is a good one to add. So emotional intelligence and so probably social emotional training in the library. I'm just jotting that down. All right, so I do have some partners that are interested in doing a business 101 and an entrepreneurship 101. And then I have another one that is interested in doing a job seeker and career changer that's tied in with technology. So expect great things. And if you have recommendations for the direction that you want some of these courses to go, feel free to email me. And again, I will put my email into the chat here in case you didn't grab it. A lot of you probably already have it, but it doesn't hurt to put it in there. So we are at 4:55, and this workshop goes from about 1 to 5. So I will ask if anyone has any questions about the resources that have been made available, any training, or just anything you want to know. They do. So small business administration, they do have a training resource, but it is not specific to library staff and it doesn't map all the resources available. Like they were really specific about the types of resources that were recommended. And there were a ton of different resources that they skipped over because they were local. And SCORE is also available through Nebraska Access. So some of the training would be specific to Nebraska Access and resources that are available only through the library. But SCORE is awesome if you haven't looked at it before. They're great for business plans and for a variety of different marketing templates and pretty much anything that you would need to set up and start a business. And you just basically download the template and it gives you instructions for filling out the different sections and different stuff like that. I'm pretty sure I also put this into the digital skill cluster under the start a business section, if anyone wants to explore that a little bit more. And oh, I didn't notice the financial statements template before. I don't know if that's new or if I just didn't see it. And are there any other questions about this so far? Because otherwise, this is probably a good stopping point since I just chucked a lot of stuff at you. All right, so I'm going to close these out. I'm happy to share any other resources if anyone was looking for anything in particular. Otherwise, you will have access to the links that are connected in through these slides. And I'll also review through and see if I missed linking anything over. And you'll also have the planning documents that we went through. So that list of partners that we just talked about, these shared worksheets for the target markets. So if you want to review back through those, see what other libraries are doing, what's been done, what you could do, then you'll be able to click through those. Other than that, that's all I've got for you.
That was wonderful, Amanda. Thank you so, so much.
You're welcome. And did you want me to send anything else over to you to share out, Tammy?
Just the slides you were going to send, right?
Yep, I think so.
That should be it, I think. And time for planks now.
Right? Yeah. All right, so I'm going to share this link over again so you have it right away. And then I will probably hop off here. Yeah. I think next is going to be planks and sit-ups. I need to work on the core. Copy, done. Opening chat. Slides, there.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Just when my water ran out too. Good timing.
Perfect.
All right. I am going to hop off, but you have my email if anyone has questions.